everybody. Welcome to Epic Living TV. I'm Dr. Pat, and I want to thank you all for just tuning in. For those of you out there, we have been doing these conversations, interviews at the Northwest Women's Show. And one of the things I want to say about this is I've met so many people here, men and women, that are not just living an epic life, but sharing what they're doing with other people. You know, Terri Johnson's joining me here today. What we're going to talk about right now is probably for me very near and dear to my heart for a lot of reasons. We're going to be talking about boundaries, codependence, and what that means. Terri, I want to start out by saying that I love your nails, but I want to
Thank
start
you.
out by saying, I know, look at, we're almost twins.
Yes, we are, just opposite.
But I want to start out by saying that there was an article in Psychology Today not too long ago where they were talking about the fact that narcissism is so prevalent
Yes, it is.
that they want to declassify it. Now,
Interesting.
you and I are like sisters, near. This is not going to be a 10-minute conversation. Well, I have to tell you why. There's confusion about narcissism and what it is and codependence.
Yes.
And I want to ask you, in the work that you do, and of course tell everybody, where you work and what you do, but most importantly, what is the confusion that we have now around codependence, and why do people that feel that they are codependent all of a sudden, become the bad one in the deal? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I absolutely do know.
Right.
With the struggle. So, do you want me to tell you a little
Yes.
bit more about what I do?
Yes.
Okay. So what I do is I'm a therapist for women and I'm a therapist for couples. So the Center for Healing, we work with women who are struggling with boundaries and codependency and narcissistic husbands. And they come and spend a few days with me and really just unpack how are they codependent? Where are their boundaries lacking? Where are they letting, it's what I call people intolerables. Where are they just allowing people to walk over them and they're not taking care of themselves?
Yeah.
And so that's part of what I do with the women. And then I also work with couples who are in crisis, who come out, who do have personality disorders like narcissism, and a codependent wife who can't stand up to him. And so we work with these couples in crisis. And so between the two, divisions of our company, it is powerful.
Yeah, it is powerful.
Life-changing.
It is.
So on to codependency. Codependency is really saying there's that family structure often that happens. And in that family structure, you have your roles. And the roles are, especially if you're codependent, you're there to please, there to take care of people. You're not to speak up. You're not to create new waves. And when you suddenly learn boundaries, like these women come and work with me and learn, oh my gosh, this is intolerable. I can't do this anymore. They put boundaries in place. She comes back into that family structure and life is not fun because all of a sudden she's speaking up and she's saying, no, I can't tolerate that anymore for you. And guess what? That family structure is in chaos because they are going, what happened to codependent mom who just did everything for me?
Wow.
And for that wife who just didn't speak up and just rolled over and allowed anything to happen and be done. And so it's really, I see the struggle all the time.
Yeah.
Changing the ways is very impossible.
I think it's really important for everyone that you and I,
Yes.
we make really clear that when we talk about narcissistic personality disorder, we're not talking about people that are self-indulgent. We're not necessarily, we want to be really clear. There's right now in our society, it is a term that's being thrown around to just broad brush, but we're really not talking about that. We're talking about folks that will go to no length. And in our society, some of them have been called sociopaths, psychopaths, and so forth. But there's a danger in that relationship. Mm-hmm. How do you help? And this, since we're at the women's show, how do you help women, whether it's women in a heterosexual couple or a same-sex couple?
Sure.
How do you help women understand that they have the power to stay or leave? And what can you say to them about what their safeguards must be if they decide to do that?
To stand up? Well, what I find is I have to help them learn this analogy.
Yeah.
That often, when you don't have boundaries, because the opposite I find of codependency is boundaries. That's really the cure for them. And so what I find is that women often don't have that boundary. And so what I do is I actually help them learn the analogy of a fence. They have a fence with a gate on it, and that fence is their boundary. It protects their value. It protects who they are. And so that gate that's regulated by her.
Yeah.
And she gets to decide who comes in that gate and who stays out, what behavior comes in, what behavior stays out. And so that's the best way for these women to go, wait a second, this behavior is not functional, and I really don't care for this behavior anymore. And so I'm going to leave that out on my gate. And so I'm not going to engage with you in this way. I will choose to engage with you when you're being calm and respectful.
Yes.
So that's part of those safeguards, is learning that only behavior and only conversations and only healthy behaviors will come in that gate.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. I'm so glad you came by, and I know this is a short time together. I read another article, and this is for all the women out there that are listening to this, that have been in relationships that you've really struggled to either make functional,
Yes,
which takes a team,
it does.
or to leave the relationship. The article said, research that narcissistic addiction. Now they make it
Yes.
they make it sound like there's something wrong with you, but clearly this is a dynamic that you and I do not have enough time to really explain.
don't.
But please go online, you'll find a lot about it. They said narcissistic addiction is stronger than heroin.
Yes.
What
it
that
is.
yeah, and so you know what I'm saying. It's like here you are, you're in a relationship which is abusive.
Yes.
Just in case folks don't know, those relationships are abusive at many levels.
Typically emotionally abusive.
Emotionally abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And now here you are, and you try to leave, and somehow you can't, and you're caught in this, I don't feel good about myself. I should be able to do this. Can you help us understand this a little bit? I know this is a short period of time.
Yes, there's so many shoulds that women put on their lives. This is the way I should be,
Yeah.
and you know what? I should be a good wife. I shouldn't leave my husband. I've taken a vow. I've taken a covenant, and I am not one for divorce.
Right.
I really
Right.
am pro marriage.
Right.
But what I find is that they have told themselves how this should be,
Right.
and because of that, they talk themselves out of it, and they feel guilty.
Yes.
And the bottom line is because they haven't realized their value as a person.
Wow.
And they don't know when with that addiction of that man or woman in their life is so strong that that's what fills them.
Yes.
That's what makes them whole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they can't leave. However, by really focusing on who they are and where their value lies, and that does not fall in a person, they can't meet those needs always, that when they discover that and they realize their value is greater than with how they're being treated, they get that conviction in them that says, I can't do this anymore. Things must change for me to be able to continue in this marriage, in this relationship.
Wow. I have to tell you, I'm really glad you stopped by, and I want to thank you for doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I want to just ask you to tell everybody the best way to find out more about you.
Yes.
Give out your website.
Okay.
And certainly we're providing information for people as well, but I'd love for you to do that. And then I have one more question for you.
Sure. Well, the Center for Healing is, again, a division for women. So we work with women directly who are struggling with boundaries and codependency and problems in their relationship. And so that is the center, www.centerforhealing.org. So you can find out more information about our intensives there, 1 day to 3 days. This one? Okay. And then also we have another division for marriages, and that is the Marriage Recovery Center, which is www.marriagerecoverycenter.com. And that you can find out a little bit more about how we work with couples in crisis. So please check out our information. information. We would love to help you.
Thank you. And one last question. What's your personal message? What would you like to tell all these women watching this today?
You know, I think what's really in my heart and what's passionate is that believe that you have value and you have worth and that you deserve to be treated with kindness and respect and to have a good relationship with your friends, with your family, and with the love of your life.
Terri, thank you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank
I'm glad you
you.
came by.
It's so nice